Pronation and supination are normal motions of the foot, and they are not going to be the primary cause of a running related injury. Pronation is inward motion of the foot, whereas supination is the opposing outward motion of the foot. When we land in our normal gait pattern, we're going to land on relatively the outside of the foot, which is a supinated position. This is a rigid position that allows us to accommodate to what's beneath us prior to moving into a more pronatory position where we are a flexible adapter, where the foot is able to display and accommodate to the foot beneath it. Once we absorb force in that pronated position, we then go back to a relatively supinated position to be in a more rigid position to then propel into our next stride. So again, we land on a relatively more supinated position that allows us to accommodate to the floor beneath us and not collapse against gravity. We move into a more supinated position, pronated position to accommodate to the ground beneath us before going to a more supinated position and toeing off that great toe in a more rigid position, which is mechanically more advantageous to propel us forward. Pronation and supination are normal movements of the foot. They occur with each stride, and some pronation and some supination is actually necessary or required to avoid injury and be protective of a running related injury. It's quite a few bones in our foot for a reason that allows this system, this complex system, to become a rigid position or a more flexible position depending on the phase of the gait cycle. Pronation and supination are good, they're healthy, they're normal parts of the gait cycle, they're normal parts of our mechanics. They're not going to ever be the primary cause of a running related injury. We're all structured slightly differently. We have a different injury history which influences our movements. We have a different athletic history which is going to influence our movements. This is all going to cause us to move and run differently. We're all going to have different levels of pronation or supination. That's going to vary. It's important to keep in mind when you see somebody who has relatively more pronation or supination. But either one isn't necessarily better or worse than the other. It's just dependent on one situation.